in Charleston, South Carolina. So good evening, everyone. It is 6 o'clock Eastern Time, and I'd like to call to order the 891st meeting of the Board of Directors of Alexandria Sanitation Authority, now known as AlexRenew Enterprises. Members of the board, could I have a motion to approve the agenda for the meeting as it appears on your screens?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second for Mr. Donnelly. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Counselor, could you review the procedures for an electronic meeting, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic emergency, the meeting of the Board of Directors is being held electronically pursuant to our electronic meeting guidelines and the local state of emergency declared by the Alexandria City Council. Meeting's being recorded, and the recording will be available on the website afterwards. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor. Lorna, do we have any members of the public attending and wishing to speak?
No, we do not.
Thank you. Board members, if you'd look at the consent agenda, you'll notice we have two items there. We're going to view them together. First, the minutes from our January meeting, and then an item involving a roof replacement. I'll give you all a minute to look at that and ask their CEO any questions you might have.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, there were two minor modifications made to the minutes. On the first page under staff, we'll be adding Ms. Dinah's, who was omitted from the staff. And then on the last page, in the last paragraph, there's a word missing. Moved should be after Mr. Donnelly's name. So I would offer those two minor amendments to the minutes as you have them.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Sharon, do you have a question, or Mr. Dickinson?
Yeah, there was just two items. Perhaps you're going to cover them later on. One was on the COVID detection. You indicated the state may be setting up a dashboard with the information on that. I know many other states have done that. Do you know if Virginia has done that yet?
At this point, I'm not aware that they are.
Okay.
They're working on it. It's a resource issue.
And hopefully the COVID business will be over with, making that not as urgent as it might be. Also, I had some questions which maybe we can cover later on about promise to pay and how that all works mechanically.
Yeah, I can cover that when we talk about the financial report.
Great, thank you.
Madam CEO, I have a question about the contract for the roof replacement. Building G1 is where on the campus?
It's a test. It is actually, if you know where the lab is, it's in the maintenance shop. It's over in that area. It covers up, it's all connected, that whole G complex, but that particularly covers the intermediate pump station and some areas there by the the maintenance shop. So we had to rehab that. That's where we put the new facilities for the control room and the lab. And this finishes it out. We saw some weaknesses there and have to complete that roof to protect all the new facilities that have been installed there.
And what is the IPS? Is that in
Intermediate
one building?
pump station. Yes. So if you read in the issue, it's the intermediate pump station in parentheses IPS.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
I suspect the equipment in that building is probably worth a lot more than the value of that roof, by the way.
Yes.
Are there any other questions on the consent agenda? Remember, we view these together, the minutes and the contract approval.
Mr. Chairman, not hearing any questions, I'll go ahead and move the approval of the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Caldarelli. Okay, this will be a voice vote. Mr. Beal, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Caldarelli?
Aye.
Mr. Dickinson?
Aye.
Mr. Donnelly?
All right,
Mr. Hill, aye. So moved. There's no unfinished business. Now for new business, item 7, we have our board participation on the Ellen Pickering Award. This is an annual tradition that we all partake in. I know I've done it for a couple of years. I think Adriana, you did it last year, I believe. Patty, when Patty Turner was here, she did it for a couple of years as well. Do we have any volunteers? By the way, I always thought this was a great way to really learn about things going on in the community and to be part of some environmental activity going on in Alexandria. Any volunteers? Mr. Beal,
I would enjoy doing that.
you would enjoy. I think you'd be very skilled at that, by the way. Anybody else want to volunteer?
I'm happy to back him up or whatever you need. It was enjoyable last year.
Yeah, great. I think we've got a great team there. Counselor, do we need a motion on this or is this sufficient?
I think you can probably just designate as chair who will be representing the authority.
Okay, so we'll have Mr. Beal as the representative on the selection committee with help and support from Ms. Caldarelli. Great.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Well, thank you, Jim. You'll enjoy it. Question for our CEO, Madam CEO, will this be presented at Earth Day? Is that when it is?
There'll be some Earth-related function for the month. That's the city's determination, and we're not sure where that'll be yet. I think the memo says during the tree planting, but they came back and said no. It may be at some other venue. So stay tuned. We will definitely let you know when we know. So we have 2 more months to figure that out. And Mr. Beal, someone will be in touch with you to get you through the process.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Great. Thank you. Moving right along very quickly to outcomes. It's been a very busy month, of course. It shows in the outcome reports. Madam CEO, do you want to walk us through both outcome reports and the financial? I have to say, I attended, and I think many of the board members did, the 3 meetings in the past month, the SAG and the listening session, and then the council work group. And I thought your team did just a super job in presenting some really complex material, presented very well in a very lively fashion, very easy to follow, and just a very impressive presentation of progress. So.
Thank you. I'm sure they appreciate that. It's a lot of work, and it was a lot in January. They did a great job, as always. So I'm very blessed to have them on board and keep this project running. That's for sure. First off, I wanted to mention, I did miss in the CEO report adding in that we did hold a governance committee meeting there at the very end of January. My apologies for missing that. I wanted to let you know that any of the policies that were okayed or noted as either no comment or just had some minor like grammatical errors or formatting errors. We've been fixing those. We posted those that had in those two conditions onto board effects. And if you look under board effects and you go to the resources library under board policies, you'll see those. The rest of them we will be working through, and hopefully we'll have something in the April-May time period. We're looking to schedule that next governance meeting at towards the end of April, beginning of May. And we'll have the rest of those hopefully drafted for review by then. If there's no other questions on the CEO report, I'll move on to the dashboard. And yes, it was a very busy month, both in terms of public and public outreach, as well as the contractor mobilizing to various sites. I did want to make you aware that they will be mobilizing on February 28th to that point that is south of gosh, I can't remember the name of the road that in the African-American Park piece of it. So they're working Jameson. Yes, thank you. They're going south of Jameson. So they'll be in both locations and starting that work on hoof run. If you remember, that's the tightest time frame that we have to get that work done. So exciting times there. Overall, the project continues to go well. We are facing, as everybody is, supply shortages, labor issues, those kinds of things. Still early days, and we'll continue to work with the contractor as the job progresses to see where that all falls out. Any other thoughts or questions on the dashboard? And if you haven't, I would encourage you to check out the URL code if you just need a little chuckle. The staff did it. Sometimes it's a very stressful job, and we use the characters and their superhero powers to move us all through the job. So they created the little trailer to help us. It's a little comic relief to keep us all going at the end of some very busy days. So I'd encourage you to do that. And then on the financials, basically it's kind of the same song as last month. We've had a very short month in between our board meetings here. We're still, the revenues are still up about 7%. So that's still a comfortable level for us. The operating budget is a little under budget. We are seeing some strain on that budget as inflation comes about. We still think we're in a good position to hold through the end of the fiscal year. As you know, we have held that O&M budget steady for several years. Just a little teaser for the new budget proposal that'll be coming out. We're not sure that we can continue to do that. We just have a lot of pressures on the operations budget, especially with the labor shortages, inflation, supply issues. So you'll get a briefing on that a little bit next month as we roll out the new budget proposal for FY23. Moving along, you will see to Mr. Dickinson's question, if you go to page 4 about delinquencies, a reminder of what we walked through last month as well. On the delinquencies, we're still holding pretty well overall. We did receive 2 tranches of grant funding. The first tranche was the $439,000 in CARES money. We delivered all of that money to 662 accounts. That money required a customer application and or attestation. When we first got that money, we were very slow in getting that money out. It needed marketing. That is when we hired Promise Pay. We hired Promise Pay just to help us deploy that $439,000 and some odd dollars. And we were very successful in that. And that's Promise Pay helped to market and reach those people that we couldn't, who met the guidelines of that funding. In August, September timeframe, we were awarded another $228,000. Unfortunately, unfortunately, we weren't able to award all that money. A lot of the money had already been awarded through the $439,000. So we were able to award $125,000 of that, and $103,000 was returned back into the coffers for that program. And really that is limited by the program eligibility requirements. We don't control that. So we did the best we could on the arrearages that were allowed and the timing of that program to get those monies out. So overall, we've given out well over $500,000 in grant funds that were awarded to us through the city to cover sanitary sewer bills that were more than 60 days in arrears. So that hopefully, Mr. Dickinson, answers your question.
Yeah, I did have a question. Promise Pay, do they contact the person in the arrears? And how do they do that? Through a letter, email?
So they have a variety of ways. Back when we actually had them under contract to help us with the deployment of that $439,000. They also use social media and electronic means, cell phones and texts as well. And so it's a variety of methods that they use to try to.
But they're targeting the party that's in the arrears. It's not just a general purpose.
Correct. Yes, back on that program specifically, we had a specific list of people who met the eligibility guidelines. And so we wanted to reach out because they had to put an application in.
Is that bill or payment that was due, is that eliminated permanently? Or is it put on a delay timeframe?
So in that case, if they had an arrearage and they met the guidelines, that arrearage was covered under that grant.
Okay. So it won't bother them later on. We won't go and try grabbing it back at some later point in time.
No, their bill is cleared.
Okay. And does Promise Pay take a percentage, or do we have a fixed price contract on that, or how does that work?
It was a fixed price contract to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam CEO, I'd like to play back, I think, the most important point of that discussion about the CARES Act relief. If I heard that right, that we dispersed, did I hear 500,000 in relief to distressed ratepayers?
439,000 plus another 125,000. So
It sounds like over 500,000.
well over 500,000. Yes.
That's
About 565.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Banker.
You're welcome.
That's impressive. That is impressive. And good. Any other questions on the outcome report from any board member or others?
Just real quickly. So we were able to erase effectively $560,000 of arrearage for our customers, but there's still right now about $540,000 that's still past due.
Correct.
Okay. All right. The reason why I asked, I just wanted to try to get an idea of what the original order of magnitude was in terms of the arrearage. So we were able to wipe out basically half of the arrearage using CARES Act funds.
Right. They were older arrearages.
Sure.
Again, those guidelines were very specific on how old they were.
Right.
Exactly. Some of the newer ones haven't qualified. And yes, you're right, Ms. Bahaf.
Yeah. Well, and those are the statutory requirements of the appropriation. And so, I mean, our hands are tied, but by the same token, without knowing exactly what those requirements are, my guess is they were the ones severely past due and households in need.
Correct.
Madam CEO, I have a question on the River Renew dashboard, and I also want to always say that The earned value analysis there on, I think it's page 2 is just a great presentation of progress. It looks like by the end of the summer, or by the middle of the summer, we'll be done with all of the design activity, if I'm reading that chart right. Now, the question is a sort of general one. By the end of the summer, when we have all the design work done, will that give us more certainty about the total price of the project and the ultimate schedule of the project when we get all the design activity done at the end of the summer?
It really doesn't have any bearing. You already have the contract price and the schedule. So it's just a form and formula of getting the design build done. They already know what the schedule is. You're in the uncertain world now, digging deep and not really knowing what's down there. So that's
Okay.
those are the construction is the uncontrolled.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you. I was just looking at that, wondering, at that point, we'll basically have everything down on paper, exactly how it should look, right? So that's great.
We'll have what the theorists think should happen, correct?
Yeah, going from paper
And then we'll
to,
go into field. Yep,
yeah, going from paper to poured concrete is a big step, right? And,
correct.
yeah. Okay, any other questions on outcomes from anybody? Okay. Moving right along, that was a very productive meeting tonight. If there's no other business, and I don't believe there is, could we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Mr. Beal, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Donnelly, all in favor, say aye.
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 Thanks, everybody. And just a
Enjoy
heads up,
Charleston.
there is an SAG meeting, I believe, on the 17th, and if you can, try to attend that. They're always very informative.
So this month
Next month.
Of
on
March.
17th.
March
Yes.
17th.
Yeah, it's every other month. So we had one in January. There should be one in March.
That may conflict with certain St. Patrick's Day activities, but the meetings are equally enjoyable. So make your choice.
We'll see what we can do.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Have a good evening, everyone.